It's Wednesday, March 29th. This is The Gateway. I'm Wayne Pratt. Members of the Missouri House have given initial approval to a new budget. Debate over the more than $45 billion proposal involved amendments to restore or add funding to programs. That includes Representative Deb Lavender's effort to increase pay for home care workers helping people with disabilities.
So we're worried more about what we're leaving in the bank and not spending than helping and caring for Missourians? I don't get that at all.
The amendment failed. Much of that House budget debate also focused on language surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion. St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Kellogg reports.
The House gave initial approval to a total of 14 budget bills. On all of them, Republicans voted to add language that stated, quote, no funds shall be expended for staffing, vendors, consultants, or programs associated with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Not only would the language apply to bills funding K-12 or higher education, they would also apply to any agency within the state budget. Representative Doug Ritchie was the sponsor of the language that made it onto each bill.
When you look at the language in front of us, we're just simply saying you can't promote treating one group of people better than others. You can't promote the idea of collective guilt.
Democrats repeatedly spoke out against the language, calling it racist, dangerous, and unconstitutional. In Jefferson City, I'm Sarah Kellogg, St. Louis Public Radio.
Missouri health officials have started the process of examining eligibility for the state's Medicaid program after a 3-year pandemic pause. The federal government prevented states from kicking people off the public health insurance during the outbreak. That provision ends April 1st. The state will resume reviewing enrollees' income and other information this spring to see if they still qualify. Medicaid Program Director Todd Richardson says he's sure some people will drop off the rolls.
We want every single Missourian who's eligible for Medicaid to have a smooth process to have their eligibility redetermined if they want to stay on the program.
The state's vetting process will not be all at once. People will be examined month by month based on when they would normally renew their annual coverage. The top prosecutor in St. Louis says she will run for re-election. Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner says she wants to stay in office and is not intimidated by efforts to remove her. Post-Dispatch reports Gardner defended her office's record during a forum last night at Westside Missionary Baptist Church. She described a lawsuit by Missouri's Attorney General to oust her as baseless and foolish. Andrew Bailey accuses Gardner of not performing her duties as circuit attorney. That legal action was filed after a teenage athlete was hit by a car and lost her legs. The driver accused in that crash was on the streets despite repeatedly violating his bond. Gardner is up for re-election next year. St. Louis has $20 million available for nonprofits and community groups looking to launch economic improvement projects. The grants are funded by federal pandemic relief money. Community Development Administration Executive Director Noel Pfeffer says the money should benefit historically marginalized areas of the city.
We know something that's a need across the city is affordable housing. We see it when we know that there's 37,000 cost-burdened tenant households and about 10,000 evictions a year in the city.
Pfeffer was a guest on St. Louis on the Air. The city is allocating a third of the funding to housing projects. A coalition for disabled people in the St. Louis region has filed a federal complaint against Metro Coloride over plans to scale back services. Advocates say people have been struggling with the transportation company for a while. Metro officials say routes are being reduced because of a lack of drivers. St. Louis Public Radio's Andrea Henderson reports.
Metro Coloride will no longer service parts of St. Louis County beginning April 10th. Advocates for disabled people say Metro didn't provide proper notice of the changes. Advocates filed a complaint with the Federal Transit Administration outlining poor services some riders have experienced. Amy Waymeyer is the president of Paraquad, a group that helps disabled people live independently. She's been disappointed with Metro's service over the past few years.
The number of rides that are being missed every week because they don't have capacity, I mean, something's got to give.
Metro officials say the service changes will affect about 250 people in the county. I'm Andrea Henderson, St. Louis Public Radio.
Alton officials say a multi-million-dollar renovation of Piazza Park will be complete by summer 2025. The city's Riverfront Commission heard details yesterday about the redevelopment plan near the Mississippi River. St. Louis Public Radio's Will Bauer reports.
Funded by a state grant, the plan includes building a new visitor center for the city, landscaping, and a parking lot. It's expected to cost up to $6.5 million. A number of residents spoke at the meeting. Resident Marty Sittner was one of them.
I think the project makes a lot of sense. I think all the points that were made about the current one were true. I think it has great potential as long as some issues are solved.
Sittner lives just above the park. She and others had questions about lighting, noise, and visitors who climb the bluff into their backyards. Officials with the Great Rivers and Routes Tourism Bureau welcomed the feedback. The next step will be finalizing the design and putting out a bid for construction this summer. In Alton, I'm Will Bauer, St. Louis Public Radio.
Some of the items we are following in the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom. St. Louis Public Schools is holding another in a series of meetings today to redesign the public school system. It's the fourth session and will focus on future population and trends. The series of meetings started last summer. An Alzheimer's Association report shows significant barriers to receive a proper diagnosis of the disease. They include a workforce shortage and lack of discussion with doctors about cognitive issues. St. Louis on the Air will dive into that report today at noon. And tomorrow on the Gateway, we will talk with a Cardinals beat writer as the new baseball season begins. The Cards opener is tomorrow afternoon at Busch Stadium against Toronto. Ashley Lisenby is the news director of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Wayne Pratt.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.